So James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's truly a pleasure. And I want to jump right into your story, man. Take the ball.
Sure. First and foremost, once again, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I've been listening to the podcast for basically since January is kind of when I started Amazon. I did a little bit prior to that, some clearance item type things, but got into the replens in January and really kind of pushed forward with it.
So that's about 8 months ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's been good. It's obviously been a challenge. I work full time, so that's first and foremost. The Amazon business is nights, weekends, any other availability that I have. Also have I'm married since May of 2017, so it's been a few years with that, and we actually have a young daughter who's 2.5 as well. So have quite a bit going on. Yeah.
What do you do for a living, James? I didn't catch.
So I'm in the business finance industry. So I basically lend money to businesses for equipment that they might need.
Gotcha.
So
you're a numbers guy. So
I am.
You're really tracking. I would imagine you're tracking the numbers on this business pretty good. That's good to hear. All right, I'm excited to dive in from a business finance guy's vantage point. What do you think about all this stuff so far?
Yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Not to jump ahead.
Yeah, you're fine. So back to kind of how I got started and prior to this business and things like that. A few years ago, I actually opened a pizzeria franchise. It's based out of Michigan. I'm from Michigan. Opened it out of state. Ran that for about 10 years. So learned a lot about business, learned a lot about work ethic, things like that. In the beginning, put in about 100 hours a week for about 3 months. So not afraid to put in the time, understand what it takes to run a business and be successful. With that being said, obviously every day is a learning experience. This business is no different. Every single day I'm learning, good habits, bad habits. This is a good idea. This is a bad idea. So just trying to continue to grow. Want to let people know that they too can do this. It is a lot of work, but with the work is the reward. So if you put the time into it, you will get out of it whatever you want. If that's, like you've said in the past, if it's an extra $100 a week or a month, or if it's an extra, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever that number is a month that you're looking for, you can do it. It's attainable if you put in the time and effort. So
that's good.
That being said, yeah, that's kind of how prior to Amazon, obviously working full time now. So I do primarily nights and weekends on Amazon, doing about 25 hours a week into it. And then I try to take Sunday off. Doesn't always happen, but I try to, because I got to have a little, have to have a little bit of time to just kind of decompress. And I learned that in my prior businesses where I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and then sooner or later you just exhaust yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So try to take that time.
It's not even so much what I found, James. See if you agree with this. The physical exhaustion is one piece, but Correct. As guys, we like to think we can power through that. I think what hits you before that is the emotional, like, what am I doing this for? Like starting to question your own sanity and, like the spiritual aspect almost. For me, that's what hits when I'm burning myself out, plowing through Sunday, 7 day a week. You do it for a while, but there's a reason that God made the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, man. That's a pattern worth following. And for me, at least, do you understand the distinction? There's like, it wasn't so much physically. I think like I can power through them and dude, I can do this. Yeah. But this, the emotional, spiritual, the relational, you start noticing like, I don't know these people under my roof.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to sacrifice something, right? If you're putting that much time and effort in, you're sacrificing somewhere. If it's, in your business or in your family or in your friendship relationships, or there's other factors in life as well based on situational, whatever your particular situation is, but you're giving, it's a give and take. You're going to give up something to work that much.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of, let's jump off on this topic too much, but someone needs to hear this. You'll hear doctors often say, or, people who are in the health profession one way or another, helping people stay healthy. They'll say, you're going to pay for your health. You can either establish little daily habits that are inconvenient and you pay for it that way, or you wait till you crash and burn and you pay for it that way. Either way, you're going to pay for your health, right?
That's a great way to put it. Yep. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
And I'm curious too, you said 100-hour a week for 3 months. There's got to be a story in there about the pizza joint. What did you learn that's carried over? Maybe some hard lessons, maybe some good lessons. It sounds like you're not doing pizza anymore. What happened?
Yeah.
I don't want to leave that little carrot dangling out there. I'm very curious as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you're good. So I was involved with the owner of the company. So he was my partner. The long and the short of it is, unfortunately, he got very sick. So he ended up passing away with cancer.
Oh, I'm so
So
sorry.
once that, yeah, it was rough for a while. But once that had passed, my wife and I had a discussion. She was my girlfriend at the time. We had a discussion on our future. Where did we want to be? I was in North Carolina, so I was 10 hours from Michigan, where I'm from. And it was just, we had a really deep conversation about what do we want in the future and where do we want to be. Both of our families are here. Family's very important to us. So we made the decision to move back. And my younger brother, stayed down there. And then over time, we basically got out of the business. Is kind of the way that it went. But
Gotcha.
to answer your question, those long hours, you learn a lot. You learn about yourself. You learn about, what am I doing this for? I'm putting in all this time. What is the end goal? And the goal was to grow the brand and build it and, have 10 plus stores come to fruition. But it is what it is. I learned a lot of lessons about life and family and working hard and, treating people right and growing teams. And I had a lot of people that I could trust and lean on. And that's what I want to do with this. Just continue to grow a team and lean on people and give them more responsibility. I was at the conference and seeing like the different stories and the different ways that you can run your own business is very inspiring. And there's so many different opportunities within this Amazon business, not even touching on anything else around it. It's exciting to see, where this will go in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. So I'm excited.
That's beautiful. You're excellent at doing interviews, by the way. Very articulate. It makes me wonder if you've read a lot of books or something. Maybe you sound like a.
I try to read. I wouldn't say I would love to do more reading than I do, but just try to be aware of, in the business that I'm in, finance and being around business owners and things like that. You just try to really answer the question. A lot of times people will deviate from what's asked. Make sure that you do that first, answer the question, and then however it goes from there, it goes. But
Yeah.
that's
For
one thing
that
I've worked
reason,
on.
you and I would both make terrible politicians.
Oh, absolutely, I would, and I'm okay with that.
Me too, brother. The
Yeah,
world would have to change quite a bit before I'd ever get elected to anything. Maybe local dog catcher. I don't know.
yeah,
But no, I loved the theme there too, tucked away in what you just said. You guys made a move away from this 3-month experiment, lost a good friend in business and in that tragedy, but you moved back to where family was. And I love the flexibility of this business model because it does make those kind of things possible. Now, that's not what made you move back to family. I'm not saying that, but just that theme of this business is so flexible. I often hold up my cell phone when I'm presenting the concept and say, as long as I got this and an internet connection, I can go anywhere, guys. And having those options, it's priceless. So I think you've kind of caught a vision of that. And I love that you gave a little shout out to our community. Yeah, we just here a couple months ago had our big annual event. Theprovenconference.com has the videos, or maybe by the time you're listening to this, some dates on the next event. But just the community that has blended together family and building a business so seamlessly and so beautifully. And you got a taste of that. And it sounds like that's kind of the plan for the future is what I'm hearing. Like, would you like for this to take off and replace your other business? Or you plan on kind of keeping them both cohabitating for a while? What's the long-term plan here?
yeah. So the plan is just to continue to grow. I'm at the point now where I've actually brought on somebody to help source. And that's more recent. And he is a friend of my younger brother who lost his job with COVID, and he's in between jobs and he has an IT background. So I basically spent some time on Keepo with him and maybe 3 to 5 hours and kind of taught him the ins and outs with the product finder and reverse sourcing and things like that I've actually learned from my coach. I'm a coaching student, learned from Adam, who's been incredible. And we've just really clicked on a lot of cylinders and talked through a lot of different opportunities and things like that. So it's been quite a journey with him. That started April 29th was our first call. So we're a
You're
few
about
calls
4 months
in.
into coaching. Okay.
Yep. But have learned a lot. With bringing the new addition onto the team, I'm kind of able to help someone. To me, that means more than anything. So I can help him, give him a little bit of income. And then in turn, he's actually helping me grow my business as well. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
Yep.
And then as he finds the replens through online sourcing, I'm going through them kind of with him and saying, here's a winner, here's a loser, certain things like meltables and things like that I'm not selling now, obviously, because of the time we're in. I do all FBA. I don't do any merchant fulfilled, just because I don't have the time. So I know that eventually I'm going to have to, Adam's been pushing me to kind of that more with Q4 coming up. But I'm kind of staying in my wheelhouse right now. These are the things that I know, and it's growing, systematically, and I'm just kind of letting it grow how it should.
Very well done. Yeah, this is a great story. There's a lot of directions I could go in, but I'm trying to say, okay, what's going to be most interesting for the most people who are listening rather than most interesting for me? So with that being said, let's jump into your business just a little bit. You've given us a few clues. You're
Sure.
working it part-time as you can, evenings, weekends. I was going to say who all's involved. It sounds like it's just you and this guy you've hired, right? Just the two of you
Yeah.
pretty much carry the bulk of the weight. Are
And
you
my
doing the
wife,
prepping yourself then?
I am. I do most of it. My wife has kind of helped out a little bit lately because work's been crazy. So she's helped. She's a teacher, so she has the summers off. So during nap time, we have that little break from our daughter. She sleeps 1 to 4. So that's kind of our time where my wife, if I lay it all out, she'll bag it and sticker it and have it all ready so that when I come home, I can, put it in the boxes and get it ready to be sent out. One little thing that I will tell people is if you do your own packaging and boxing and all that kind of stuff, depending on what level you're at, one thing that I learned very, very quickly is UPS will pick up from your house. I learned a valuable lesson with this. There's multiple ways that they'll pick up. Once you go into it and you create an account and everything like that, basically the ballpark figure should be about $6 per pickup. And they'll pick up anywhere from 1 box to I've had 25 boxes. So just kind of a little piece for people that are growing that don't have the time to run to UPS, or maybe based on where you live, it's hard to get to. That's something that I learned very quickly, that hey, if they're going to come to my house, I can work and I can still do everything else. And when they get here, I help the guy load the truck and he's in and out and he loves it. And I always throw him a water or Gatorade or whatever he wants. And it's been good. So that's helped me tremendously. An hour here, an hour there, it all adds up.
It really does. And I don't know why that triggers a thought in my head, but that's one of the benefits and values of our larger Facebook group and community overall is those kind of little basic tips that you kind of learn along the way, jumping in, you see them and you can teach them, and the synergy effect of our community. Just imagine 66,000 people who each kind of have a little tip like what James just shared with us, and it's free. So maybe that's a little plug for our Facebook group. There's a link at silentgym.com. If you're listening or watching, jump over there when the show's over and jump into our free Facebook group. You'll see tips like that all day, every day. Just people helping each other out. Ask questions, offer up your tips. And that's a good one. Have UPS come to your house. If you're doing it right, it should only cost you a few bucks. Definitely saves you a trip across town. And you're using Amazon's shipping rates too, which are great. Typically around, I think we figure around 30, 35 cents a pound or so, typically is what we're paying, I think, to ship. But I don't pay attention to that part of our business quite as much as I used to. That's all being run by the people right now. But it's just, you can really move a lot of stuff pretty quick and pretty inexpensively using those rates. So it's all FBA. I want to hang out with that just a little bit.
Okay.
How many items are you selling?
So right now, total items, I have about I would say 250 to 260. In stock items, I would right around 200 at any given time.
Gotcha.
Obviously that list is growing. Weekly, monthly, it's growing. And I've had some kind of, just to backtrack a little bit on that. So when I first started with Amazon, I took I guess let's take it even a step further. Prior to getting into this group. I was not a part of Facebook. I could care less about social media. Like, I just thought it was a platform for people to brag about nonsense.
Yeah.
So, and I just
And it
didn't have the
is
time.
for the
I don't
most
have the
part.
time for all that. Yeah.
I don't
So,
either.
yeah. So I did some research and I found your group through, Google and different factors. And I did some research on that and said, okay, well, looks like something that makes sense. So let me start a Facebook page or account or whatever it is. And let me, just start reading and listening to the podcast and all that. So that's kind of where I started. From there, I did a little bit of clearance items prior to January. So like an item here, an item there to learn the system with Amazon.
Sure.
I didn't have a seller account. I was just an individual. I didn't pay the fees. I didn't do any of that stuff. The $39.99.
Yeah, you didn't
really
have a pro account. You had the individual
Correct.
account, which lets you just charge a fee per item you sell that way. You just kind of dipping your toe in the water version of selling. Yeah.
Exactly. So I made a decision in January. Actually, my wife and I made a decision that we were going to go,
Smart.
let's see what this is all about. Let's not just dash. Let's put some time into it and see if we can really grow this and kind of see what happens. So I'm a numbers guy, right? We talked about this. So my goal was to sell at least 40 items a month, right? That way it pays for itself. It's cheaper than, paying per item. So that's kind of where I started. And I gave myself $500 to start. So this business, people say they don't have money, they can't do it because of X, Y, and Z. My business that I'm over 100,000 this year started with $500. So there's no excuse. I mean, you can find $500 anywhere. If you're serious, you can do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I would even say, to kind of pile on the point you're making, if someone comes to me, which happens frequently, people will come to us and say, okay, I've only got $25,000 to start this business. Where should I put the money? What should I do? And I say, you're going to need about 500 of those dollars, and you're going to leave the rest of them in the bank because you're going to start slow. You're going to buy a few things. You may not even buy anything. You may just find some things laying around the house, and you're going to learn the process.
Mm-hmm.
Lose money, make money. I don't care at this stage. Let's get 5 or 10 transactions through the system. You know how it works. That's going from 0 to 1. And then the trip from 1 to 100 is infinitely easier after that, as I bet you discovered, right? Just getting through those first initial stages of, okay, I got to put tape on a box. I haven't done that in a while. Just all those little steps that go into it. But then after that, the stuff is everywhere. So you got up to 250 products that you're selling using our replens model. Sounds like you ramped that up pretty quick. Sounds like you found most of those products yourself too. I wouldn't mind spending some time on that. Like, what process did you go through? You go into stores, you shopping online to look for them, taking pictures of shelves. What's your process?
So initially, in January, what I did was, after listening to the podcast and kind of reading through the Facebook posts and things like that, I said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on one store. It's a regional store, and I'm not going to leave that store until I get to $10,000 a month in sales.
Wow, a goal guy. I like it. I don't think I could do that.
So that's what I did. I literally, my business went, and I have the numbers here. January was 45, just under 4,500. February was 7,100. March was 15,4. April was 17,500. So in 4 months, I went from dabbling to 17,500.
And what was your margin at that point? I'm sure you probably know that spot on.
Yeah. So I was, in those 4 months, I was doing what Jimmy mentions in his Replen course of targeting 40% ROI or higher. So most of them are around that 40 to 60% range. And my net was like 18.6%. Nice. So after I paid for everything, boxes, tape, anything was just under 19%.
Gotcha.
So not world on fire, but put money in the bank.
Absolutely. Enough to where a numbers guy was convinced, hey, there's something here. Never mind the fact that a lot of your calculations involved buying those one-time expenses. Had to buy a scale. Don't have to do that every month. Had to buy a tape gun. Don't have to do that every month. A lot of those one-time purchases getting set up, that
hmm
only add up to maybe $1,000 or so tops, but still that's a chunk out of your profits too. So those first few months coming in around 20%, not bad. And that was enough to tell you, hey, I want to get a coach, right? Because you said you mentioned
Yeah.
you got a coach about April. All
Yes.
right. So what changed once you got a coach, and how did your process change at that point?
Sure. So the coach, what Adam helped me kind of understand was taking what I've learned in those first 4 months and basically critiquing it. So, okay, instead of doing 40%, go for 60% or higher. Instead of jumping on a listing that might have 15 sellers, look for a listing that has 3 sellers. You're going to sell more. There's less competition, because what I'm running into, why my margin kind of dropped, was because I'm on these listings that have 30 sellers, and it's the race to the bottom, right? It's eventually going to go, it doesn't go to zero, but it goes where a lot of people, they don't understand the numbers in their business, and they're basically selling it for cost. I know that
Right.
there's no additional coupons that they're getting because this store doesn't coupon anything. So I know
Sure.
that this is
Sure.
what the price is.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see, because there's different business models. I am a numbers guy, so the net is what matters to me. I could
That's
care
all that
less
matters.
what my sales are. So
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure. And are you well, that's, you know what, that's too much off the topic. I'm going to keep us on that for just a second, what you just said on the many sellers race to the bottom. Now,
mhm,
I would give you the exact same advice, but I do want to say, just for listeners who are maybe newer to this or thinking, well, okay, he just said don't sell if there's more than 3 sellers. I'm on some listings where there's a whole bunch more sellers than that, and we're doing great.
mhm,
And several of us are doing great. And thing you have to keep in mind too when you're analyzing, okay, there's a bunch of sellers, is is one of those sellers Amazon and they have thousands and they're just saying no way anyone's ever going to make any money on this? Well, yeah, you can walk away from that. But if it's other sellers who only have 1 or 2 or 3 and they're kind of kicking around small quantities, or you see the buy box rotating around a lot, we show you how to do that in Keepa. You can look at the data and then buy box statistics in Keepa and see like, wow, that buy box is bouncing around a lot. What we'll do sometimes is we'll stay right up there in the very high margin. There'll be 12 sellers cheaper than us, and we're winning the buy box consistently because we have enough inventory in that our
mhm,
inventory is spread out across the country. Everybody sees a
yep,
different buy box depending on where you live in the country. In the United States, they're all seeing a different buy box. And we may have the only unit that's close to where someone lives. That's what that customer is going to see. Even though it's priced way higher, it's the one that Amazon can get on their porch tomorrow, and
yeah,
they're gonna check that box. So just as a little tip for you too, yeah, I absolutely love the advice that you got, and I know it improved your business. But there's never a cold hard line that says, well, you never want to do this. The only never I'll give in regards to the FBA is avoid, if at all possible, being the lowest priced FBA seller on anything. You never want to be
okay,
that guy that's encouraging the race down. You want to at least match the guy above you or be slightly higher so that box rotates to you. But yeah,
yeah.
great point. So how did that advice that Adam gave you start to change your business? What happened next?
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback off of what you just said too, I don't want people to think that like, oh, I got rid of all my products that had 30 sellers. That's not the case at all. I reached
Right.
out to Adam and I just did discuss it with him, and he actually said the exact same thing that you said. He said, if there's enough sales, keep your price where it is and it'll come back, which it does.
It always
And
does.
to your point as well, if you have enough units and they're spread out across the country, you're going to get that buy box. Even if you're 3, 4, 5, 10%, 15% higher, it's eventually going to come back around. And
Or in
that's what
some
I've
cases,
learned.
significantly higher. I mean, we have ASINs where we are twice the price of the other
Oh,
FBA
wow.
seller. They're sitting at 12,
Wow.
$15, and we're sitting at 25 plus getting
Wow.
sales because again, we have enough inventory in stock. It's worth
Yeah.
experimenting with. Don't go buy 500
Okay.
units. When you say have enough inventory, just curious, when you and Adam talked about it, what does that mean? Does that mean 5 units? Does that mean 10? What's the,
No, so I've done 5 like on a lot of stuff to test. But I actually reached out to Rich Potter as well about this,
Mhm.
and he said, you know what, send more. And a couple of other people in the group, some of the other groups that I'm a member of as well, within Facebook, they said, just send more. If you're selling it, if it's selling, send more and what your sales will increase.
Yep.
And they do. I mean, it's crazy. And that's when I first started, I was only sending in like 2 of an item, 2 of this, 2 of each. And then when I literally almost doubled month over month, then that's when I said, instead of sending 5, let's send 15 and just let them ride. And that's helped too. But I'm still very new into this, and there's so much to learn. And, that's by bringing the coach on, and my business paid for the coach, which I didn't take anything out of our pocket. It was all self-sustaining, which has been nice. To know that the business is it's running itself financially. Q4, I might put some money into it to just have that extra money to buy and be ready for Q4. But this is my first one, so I'm excited, anxious, all the above about it, to see kind of what happens. Yeah.
So you're still rolling off that original 500. You haven't pulled any other money in.
I haven't put any other money in besides that.
And even paid for coaching with.
Yep.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see your books. I bet it's a Picasso.
It could be better.
Gorgeous. You could probably teach us all a few things.
Yeah.
I love it. So along those lines, I'm curious, as a finance business, thinking brain, put into perspective this business model. You've seen other businesses, you've run other businesses, you help other business owners run their businesses, much like I would ask an accountant. I love asking anyone who's done accounting for, say, 30 or 40 years, like, what business models are really rocking right now? Like, what are you seeing out there? Because they can tell you that's their client base, right? And industries rise and fall. Put this one in perspective for us, if you could, using your experience.
Yeah. I mean, just based on what I've seen in, what are we in? We're in August right now, the end of August. So what I've seen just this year, it's phenomenal. I mean, the opportunity is really whatever you want from it, you're going to get out of it, even from a number standpoint. So, initially I was looking for 40% or higher, then I bumped it to 60. So with that, I don't really do any, I do a little bit, but most of my products are over 60% ROI. So now, my net is it's 24.5 or even higher based on the month, based on what's selling, things like that. So to have a business that's at this point is small, it's ran out of my home, but to know that this business could go 10 times what it is now, not out of my home, because my wife we wouldn't be married anymore because there'd be stuff everywhere. But
sure, but you could afford, out of the proceeds of the business, to have a space, right?
Correct.
Or what some people have done, like Josh Rojas in Florida, his whole team is neighbors.
Yeah.
The inventory just goes to their garage.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I mean, there's so many different directions you can take. And I love his philosophy on, I started this business to stay home with my family. So the last thing I want to do is take people from that. I think that's a great philosophy.
Yeah.
But, there's other people doing it with the warehouse and things like that. So once you get into the community and you really start reaching out to people and learning and actually listening to what they say, instead of just, oh yeah, I know how to do this, or I've been doing this longer than you, so you don't know anything. Like, just keep an open mind. And if you do, you can truly be successful with this. Whatever the dollar amount is, just stay focused, and have the right mindset and get up every day and learn and push, and the sky's the limit with what you can do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I see it all day, every day. That's the beauty of this community. It encourages me every day. I learn new things, and I love that I'm the one that gets to do these interviews, because I get to hear these great little tidbits and strategies, and get inspired, especially by new sellers. There's just something about someone who says, hey, it was just a few months ago that I had no idea what I was doing, and now look what I've got. And they're off on this trajectory. And if you play this trajectory forward, even conservatively, it's not linear. There's going to be a little bit of a curve there, but even assuming a little bit of a curve over time and some, economies of scale that kick in, where it starts to hurt a little bit in different places, this is still 2-3 years from now. You've built an amazing business helping multiple families support themselves while earning way more money than you ever have. It's a really cool thing. And it opens up all kinds of other opportunities too, which not even tapping into that, but the opportunities to educate others and become a leader, maybe become a coach yourself. write a book about your experience. Just, it's such a blue ocean opportunity that it's why I get so excited about it. And I feel like people get tired of hearing me say it. So I have guys on like you so I can have an
Yeah,
excuse to talk about it more, right? Because it's just so great. It's so
no, it is.
expansive.
It's
Well,
it's
so,
very interesting, and
but
everybody
let's,
has their own story, right?
oh yeah. And there's always a unique twist. I literally can't think of an episode ever of this podcast where I've talked to one of our students and I've gone, I've kind of heard that story before. There's always a new twist, a new angle. But I'm curious here. Okay, so here we are coming in towards the end of August. You've been in coaching since April. You've hit
Hmm.
100,000 in total sales. You're creeping up on 25% net, which is beautiful. What's the goal for this calendar year? You kind of started at the beginning of the year. So what, this 12-month period, what are you thinking? You hoping to double your 100 these last 3-4
Two
months?
two 250 is the number that I
250 is the
that I
goal.
told
I knew you'd have a
that I
number.
told Adam.
I was
Yeah, that
too
was the number.
conservative when I said double it, 250. And I think that's very doable actually, because we've got the fourth quarter coming up and that's not too bullish of a goal. If you can keep the inventory in, I think what
Hmm.
you're going to see come about mid-November, early mid-November is you're going to be selling out of a lot of stuff, scrambling to fill the shelves. And this is why Adam probably talked you into FBM a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm sure he's probably said this to you, James, but I'll echo it for all the other listeners. And so you're hearing it twice, is Amazon gets slow checking stuff in every year. It happens, especially with all the COVID stuff going on right now, and companies are getting a little wacky again, which means the numbers are going to be even bigger, but stuff could get slow checking in. You can almost double whatever it is you're used to. If they check it in
Okay.
a week, it's going to take 2 or maybe even 3 weeks. So the time to really decide how all in you're going to go is kind of coming at us,
Oh,
October.
oh yeah, yeah, it's coming, which is
Yep.
fine. And I'm almost looking at it as, and we had a discussion this weekend, Adam and I, about the multiples, because I have about 50 items that I'm not selling right now. That as soon as that October date hits, they're going to be in, on the shelves as fast as possible with Amazon. But that's kind of my date where I'm going to really focus on, like, okay, getting this Q4 stuff needs to be out the door and in Amazon by that meltables date too. So that's all like compiled together, and then as it sells, I'll replenish as fast as I can, and keep my fingers crossed and
Good
do
planning.
just do what I can. That's it.
But the other piece you mentioned earlier, be ready to do some FBM.
Yeah.
If I were to stretch your planning, just if I was your coach, I'm not taking away from anything Adam's saying, but this goes for all of us. Now is the time to be thinking, do I want to get somebody else in place who could make a little extra money for Christmas by
Okay.
shipping some FBM product, meaning doing my own merchant fulfill? If Amazon starts getting real slow on some of these hot items, hey, you can throw them up for sale and sell them 2 seconds later. A lot of the
Yeah.
stuff, rather than waiting 2-3 weeks for Amazon to check it in. And your margins are actually better too, Mr. Numbers Guy. FBM, you're shipping it, you can charge more for shipping than you're actually charging the customer. There's a couple ways that you can almost double dip on your margins there and do really
Okay.
well. And some people, if you're going to do FBM, Q4 is the time to play around with it, because there's nothing more exciting than going into a store and throwing 6 things in your cart, listing them before you check out, and they're sold before you get to your car. So you go home and
Yeah.
ship them. It's
Yeah.
like, if I was doing this FBA, that could have been 2 or 3 week adventure waiting on those things to get checked in. So you got both options. So now's the
Yeah.
time to
And
start thinking.
he's been pushing, and I pushed back, and I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to. So it's more just listening to him, and 90% of the things I do listen to, but that's one of the things that I've pushed back on, and I've been pretty. And he keeps, well, just try. You're gonna want
Yeah.
to. You're gonna want to. So you're
Well,
just reiterating that.
I think for a guy like you, what I would probably advise, and this is for anybody, you've had a little taste of what it feels like to bring somebody on board, and you've probably had that moment where you're thinking, why didn't I do this sooner? But although you did it pretty fast, I have to say, and you're moving it right along because you're a numbers guy. Again, you're playing a lot of wisdom by knowing the numbers. It makes it easy to make some of these decisions. But from a pure numbers perspective, I mean, if you just get that person across the street used to the idea of, hey, I'm going to have a few things for you to sell every now and then, you got to get them out quick within a day or two. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? I'll pay you hourly. And get a couple people lined up. It really does open up a whole new line of opportunity for you, especially in Q4. But hey, you know what I like to do, James, is we've got our Q4 groups ramping up. These are the kind of topics we kick around. provenq4plan.com. I'll stick it in the show notes for the listeners, but I want to get you in there for free so you can kick it around with other people who
I
are
appreciate that.
excited about, am I going to do some FBM this year? Where's the opportunities? What are those hot products? It's like, hey guys, buy as many of this as you can. Go to Walmart right now, clear the shelf. There's 60 sellers, but it's selling 400 units a day. So like, go get them, that kind of stuff. They do that in there. I think you'll really enjoy that. Not that you have a lot of spare time, but at least let you.
I'm going to make some for this for Q4. Yeah. I'm going to make some extra time. Got
Very
some vacation days I haven't used and things like that. So I'll be.
Oh, you're planning ahead. That's beautiful.
I'll be doing what I can. Yeah. To maximize this. I mean, this is, everybody talks about this is, there's some people in the community that I've heard this makes their whole year. So if I can turn that around and put a bunch of money in the bank and be ready for next year, that's what I would love to do. One other thing I would say is, and this isn't for everybody, but one thing I did take advantage of with my background is obviously started the business right away, the name of the business, establish it as a company right as soon as you can. The other thing I did, and this is, everyone is their own person and they know their own financial situation, but I did get a business credit card right away. And the reason for that is to build business credit. And then obviously it's just there's 12 months, 0% for 12 months, things like that out there for anybody. If you are comfortable with credit cards and you're responsible and things like that, I definitely would advocate, get some of that free money, use it for your inventory. You're going to get paid from Amazon faster than your bill is going to be due. And you can kind of just recycle that for those 12 months. I took advantage of that and still am. So that's kind of one of the things that I used to build my business. That's how I did do the $500 and just only the $500. So just something, it's not for everybody. I don't advocate, don't go out and get a bunch of debt that you can't be responsible about. But if you are responsible, right, it's an opportunity for you to grow your business kind of organically the way that Amazon lets you. And as you get paid, just be adamant about paying that off.
Right. And I'm fine playing in that gray area too, of using capital, using loans, using a credit card to grow a process that you have proven with consistency works. So you leverage that free money to help you scale faster. And some people need to have that hard, fast Dave Ramsey rule of don't ever touch a credit card, you idiot. What are you doing? And a lot of people need that. But if you've got a system that 10 times in a row has proven, hey, when I put $10 in, I get $20 back, and someone hands you some free money, go ahead and put some of that in. You don't have to go all in, but it can certainly help you scale faster. And that's helped you get to the level you're at more quickly. Yep. That's good advice. Proceed with caution on credit, but there's no better use. And, for the believers in our audience are like, oh no, you can't go into debt. No, actually the Bible talks a lot about lending and borrowing and doing it with a good ethical, moral, Judeo-Christian ethic standpoint. So yeah, not the topic to dive off into too far, but
yeah. I don't want to get too into it, but yeah.
Yeah. There is room there, and we see it happen all the time. And I've leveraged it responsibly for the most part, my entire business career. I could say this, I've never gone out and got a big loan to grow my business, but I have leveraged credit cards. And I love those points, those points, no one gets wealthy off points, but I don't have to pay to fly anywhere. We put all of our inventory through a card, and every time we go to fly, it's like, whoa, we got a lot of points. Let's use those up. Let's go somewhere fun, nice. Right?
Well, especially with you, have such a large family, I'm sure you need all the points you can get for everybody.
Oh, I'll need all the whatever you got. For sure, man. But although they are growing up and starting to pay some of their own bills, which is kind of fun. But
that's good. Yeah.
Good. Well, you'll be there before you know it, man. That 2.5-year-old will be 18, and you'll be saying, "What happened? Where'd the time go?" Trust me. Yeah. Everyone says it, that it's true, man. It's crazy how fast they change and grow. So I love that you're able to spend some time, and you've got that as a goal to spend more time at home, and you've got a home-based thing. It's not pulling you away. Imagine the pizza gig was pulling you away from home a lot, but what you're doing from home. And one thing I would encourage you as a young dad too, not that you asked, but for all the other young parents too, involve your young daughter as soon as you can in creative little ways. Just putting stickers on all the boxes, or
she does.
Yeah, exactly.
Because she's downstairs with us.
Those memories are burned in their brain, and you're creating a little entrepreneur there. We're serving other people. We want to make them happy. We're working for other families. These toys aren't for you. It's for other little girls all over the world that are buying us stuff. And that's a great, that delayed gratification lesson of like, oh, that's not for me. I've got to work and then I can earn one of these.
Yeah.
So many good lessons. Yeah.
No, I
Even the
would
little
agree
two and a half
100%.
year old brain.
She does the bundle. So she counts, 1, 2, 3 and
Mm,
puts them in a pile and then goes to the next one. At least
so
that's the
good.
thought process. So it works sometimes. I wouldn't say all the time. She's
Oh,
2.5, you
she's got an
know?
attention span of 8 minutes, right? But I mean,
Yeah,
hey, or
exactly.
maybe 30 seconds sometimes, right?
Yeah,
But
30
still,
seconds.
those
Yeah,
those little lessons and the time spent with mom and dad, like that's better than anything she could get in the most expensive private education in the world. Time spent doing that stuff with mom and dad.
I
Just
would agree.
beautiful. Fantastic. Well, what other tips or any other strategies? Anything did you make some notes? Have anything else you want to share, or we can start to wrap this one up? The ball's kind of in your court on this one.
Yeah, I would just say, the biggest thing is my dilemma, and I'm sure there's, thousands of people, the same dilemma is just get started. If it's not jumping into the pro account, if it's just selling a couple things, learning the process, just start. If this is something that you're really interested in, start. And if you don't start, you never know where it's going to go. But if you do start, who knows how great this could be. I mean, this could change your life forever. And all it takes is you taking the first step. So that's kind of what I would say to everybody. And then just be persistent and consistent. Be consistent with your efforts. If it's, Adam was very big on making a schedule. Yeah, you only have so much time, but okay, what are you going to do Monday? What are you going to do Tuesday, et cetera, the rest of the week? And do that every single week, whatever it is. So little things like that will just catapult your business to the next level. And start watch the replens. You don't need a lot of money. You can do really whatever. You can start with $100 if that's all you have. Go find items, learn the process at Amazon. How do you send them in? Like, how long does it take to get paid, et cetera, et cetera. Like myself included, I have to learn the FBM. I've been reluctant to do it. That's on me. So that's a goal that I have for myself, to learn that now and really push that, because it's going to only help me in my business going forward. So those
Absolutely.
are just a couple things. And then once again, thanks for having me. This is it's an honor. It was great going to the conference, meeting people face to face, really having some good conversations, and focusing on some new things. I went from an average sale price of $15 to now an average sale price of about $27. So I'm able to sell the same amount of items, but almost double my total sales, which in turn is going to double my profit as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So you were encouraged to, and that's actually a really good tip is once you're good at turning $5 bills into $10 bills, use those same skills, turn 20
Mm-hmm.
into 40. It's the same process. Or some people swear by, and I've had some recent conversations on this podcast with people who are out there spending an average $50, $70 buy price and turning that into $120. And like, hey, once you're good at it and you recognize a good keep a chart and you know how to test, why not get out there and test in those higher price ranges? You can make a lot more money handling a lot fewer products. There's some real economies of scale that start to kick in there in a good way.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some good things happening there as you
And
learn these little lessons and hang out in the community. And I'm excited to
yeah,
see where you'll be.
I'm
You're what I
excited
call
too.
a bet in this industry. You're meticulous, you're calculated, you're following your numbers, you're following good processes. And if I were betting, if you continue on the same road of the same amount of effort and determination that I'm seeing now, there's no reason you won't have a multi-million-dollar business within a few years, two, maybe something like that. That's the trajectory you're on. If we're looking at the math, and that could be even conservative. If you're willing to grow your team, bring on the right people, this is exciting. This is an exciting
Yeah.
business you're
That's,
building.
that's the biggest thing, is the team. That's the key. I mean, and I would say anybody who's listening to this, if you have a question, reach out on Facebook. I'm not on there all the time, because like I said, I don't really use it. I don't have it, readily available, because most of the time I could care less, except when it comes to this group. If there's anything that you need, I want to help people in any way that I can. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford a coach. Not everybody is able to do that. So whatever it is, if it's, you might think that it's insignificant question, but if it's something that's on your mind, reach out, and whatever I can do to help, This community has helped me tremendously, and I just want to reciprocate that to everybody else. So I appreciate everything.
And that is a very kind offer. But I will tell you this, James, having done this a while, that an offer such as that just could slam your inbox. And I will tell you that the best answer, it's very acceptable and full of virtue, is to say, hey, you know what? That would be a great question to post in the forum
Yeah.
in front of 66,000 people. Because I don't know if I have time for that. By the time this episode runs its course, it'll be heard by thousands and thousands of listeners. So,
Yeah. And maybe I shouldn't say that then.
no,
That's why I didn't
I
say.
love the heart behind it, but I'm just telling you, if you don't hear from James, that's why, because
Yeah,
a lot of people listen to
exactly.
the show. But jump into the free Facebook group, guys, and that's a good place. Any question you'd send James, I'd love to hear his answer to a few other questions too, I'm sure. But neither one of us are as smart as the 66,000 people who hang out from around the world and
Correct.
doing this business in a big way for years and years. So it's a good place to post just about anything
Yeah.
you run into. But
Definitely use the community for everything. I mean, there's so many good people in the community. I don't know how you do it, how you keep the majority of the riffraff out, but it's pretty remarkable to see how everybody is within
I
the group.
appreciate the shout out on that, because it is a bit like herding cats at times, but I am working on a book that's about how to lead in a virtual community, because there's a lot of lessons there. There's a lot of secret sauce in there that the world needs to know. And one of them is you do have to be pretty bold about kicking out the clowns when they show their true colors. And they'll go off mad and they'll say all kinds of angry, nasty things and make stuff up, but you got to be willing to do it. You can't please everybody, and you got to learn who it is you can and can't please, and stick to the people who appreciate what it is you're all about. So serve those who are there with excellence, and those you can't serve, send them on their way.
Smart. Yeah. Cut your losses and move on. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to be gentle on the exterior, but have a firm spine. It's an interesting combination that's required. I appreciate you giving a shout out to that, because it's not easy. I'd say for every 500 people that ask to come into our Facebook group, only maybe 200 of them are still there a couple months later. About half of them make it in. And of that half, about 50 of those 250 are going to be people who are trying to, with some kind of side agenda,
Oh yeah.
free promotion or sell something or recruit to their big offer, so they get weeded out. So it is some work. I appreciate the shout out on that. So what we end up with, instead of a group of 500,000 people where it's a free for all, it's 66,000 people who really want to be there, and they're there for the right reasons, or they're staying very quiet if they're not there for the right reasons. So,
which is fine too, as long as they're quiet.
Perfectly
right?
fine.
Yeah.
Happy to educate them. Maybe they'll come around to the light side of the force, right?
Yeah,
So,
I would agree.
all right. Well, hey, it's been great hanging out with you, James. And I think I'll address the listeners for just a minute as we wrap this one up. Thanks for hanging out with us. And again, like I like to say, I hope you enjoyed and benefited as much as I did today, because I certainly did. I'm just so encouraged. If a new guy can come in with $500, a young daughter, a wife, a busy schedule, and build $100,000 business in a few months with the goal of $250,000 for his first year at a really nice profit margin, well, why can't you do that? There's no reason you can't. That's what we teach. That's why we share these stories. Very little money invested, put in the time and effort. This stuff works. We're here to help you out if we possibly can. Go to silentgym.com, jump into our free Facebook group. Like we talked about, we'll have a link to coaching, which James took advantage of, the link to our proven Amazon course. So you can jump in and start going through the steps there. But if all you do is sit back and listen and enjoy this episode, hey, we love you there as well. So just take your time, take in the good facts, and build something. But God bless all the business building warriors who are out there. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you today. Another shout out to our guest, James. You did great, man. Thank you. Thanks, James.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I was trying to bump it to you, but I didn't do a good job of it. But and to everyone else who's hanging out there listening to us, hey, we'll have another great episode for you real soon. We'll talk to you then.